Stop believing the lie. You've been told wealth is earned through diligence. You've been programmed to think that the path to the top is paved with fairness, integrity, and hard work. Every self-help guru, every LinkedIn post, every motivational speaker hammers the same comforting, utterly false mantra. They tell you to save, to invest, to hustle. And for a fleeting moment, you might ascend. You might make a fortune. But the ultra-rich, the families who hold power across centuries, not just one fiscal quarter, they laugh at this advice. Because they know that getting rich is a game of skill, but staying powerful is a game of ruthless strategy. The real secret isn't how to make $1 million. It's how to prevent anyone or anything from ever taking it back. And for that, you need a different code. A code the old money families teach their heirs behind guarded gates. A code that views morality as a cost and power as the only true currency. You're about to be exposed to the 5 ruthless rules the ultra-rich pass down to ensure their dominance isn't a flash in the pan, but a permanent state of being. These aren't financial tips. These are psychological weapons. The central tragedy of wealth is this: 90% of family fortunes are gone by the 3rd generation. Why? Because the generation that earned the money taught their children how to work, but they forgot to teach them how to rule. They taught them the price of everything, but not the value of absolute control. Today, we decode the mindset of generational power. We break down the mechanisms of control, the strategic use of isolation, and the terrifying objectivity required to treat every human interaction as a simple transaction of power. This isn't about being nice. This is about being strategic. This isn't about getting rich. This is about staying powerful. Let's start with the most uncomfortable truth, the first lesson whispered to every heir apparent. The inner circle doctrine. Why trust is the most expensive currency. The first rule of sustained power is not about what you acquire. It's about what you defend. And what is the biggest threat to generational wealth? People. The ultra-rich understand that every relationship, every friendship, every alliance outside the core family unit is an uncontrolled variable. It represents a vulnerability, a potential leak, a point of blackmail, a drain on resources, or a lawsuit waiting to happen. The poor seek validation. The middle class seek community. The powerful seek strategic isolation. This rule is drilled into the heirs early. You do not keep friends. You cultivate allies. A friend is someone who wants access to your time and resources for emotional satisfaction. They complicate decisions. They introduce risk. They are a luxury item that the powerful cannot afford. An ally is someone who provides a specific, measurable advantage. They are transactional, predictable, and can be managed. The relationship is based on shared utility, not shared emotion. When the utility ends, the relationship dissolves cleanly, without residual emotional debt. Think of the Rockefeller family. Their power was built not just on oil, but on their ability to create an impenetrable inner world. John D. Rockefeller famously mistrusted the outside world to such an extent that he created a self-contained ecosystem. Private schools, private security, private lawyers, designed to filter out every unnecessary human contact. This isn't paranoia, it's defense. The strategic isolation taught to the children of the elite is multi-layered. 1. The information scarcity principle. Never share vulnerability. Never share unnecessary information. When you speak, speak only to clarify, command, or conceal. The less the world knows about your inner workings, your fears, or your future plans, the less leverage they have. This silence is often misunderstood as arrogance. It's actually absolute defense. The 2. The 5-person firewall. Every ultra-rich family is taught to maintain a literal firewall of trust. The number of people outside the direct family who can access their core financial or strategic information rarely exceeds 5. This circle includes the family office CEO, the chief legal counsel, the head of security, and perhaps 1 or 2 external lobbyists or political strategists. These are not friends. They are highly paid, highly scrutinized functionaries whose loyalty is maintained by unparalleled financial incentive, not genuine affection. The 3. The emotional ledger. This is the most cold-blooded part of the rule. Every favor granted, every moment spent, every gift given is subconsciously recorded not as an act of kindness, but as a deposit in an emotional ledger. The moment the person on the receiving end fails to reciprocate with equal or greater utility, be it information, influence, or action, they are categorized as a net drain. The relationship is then slowly, surgically terminated. The child who masters this rule learns to look at every acquaintance and ask one simple, chilling question. What is their function? If the answer is merely to be nice, they have failed the test. Niceness is cheap, power is expensive, and the inner circle doctrine ensures that the only currency you spend is the one that guarantees more control. The asset versus human model. How to view every resource objectively. If Rule 1 protects the inner life, Rule 2 protects the balance sheet. The common person is taught to lead with their heart. The ultra-rich are taught to lead with their spreadsheet. Financial empathy, the feeling of guilt, obligation, or compassion when making a monetary decision, is viewed by generational wealth strategists as a fatal weakness. It is a bug in the code that leads to impulsive charity, poor investment choices, and worst of all, generational guilt. Generational guilt is the insidious feeling that one deserves the wealth less than others, leading to excessive philanthropy, bailouts for less successful relatives, and a general inability to be tough in business negotiations. The rich know this guilt destroys fortunes faster than a market crash. Their children are immunized against it. They are taught the asset versus human model. In this model, the world is divided into 2 categories. Assets, anything that generates or defends capital. This includes businesses, real estate, trusts, legal structures, and crucially, talent, employees, executives, key politicians. Humans are the general populace who consume, vote, and operate outside the core system. The difference is that assets are managed based on ROI, return on investment. Humans are managed based on risk and perception. This cold objectivity is taught through brutal lessons. 1. The unconditional no. The most powerful word in the ultra-rich vocabulary is no. They teach their children to say no instantly, firmly, and without apology or explanation to any request that does not directly advance the family's objectives. Explanations breed negotiation. Apologies breed weakness. The poor justify their yeses. The rich justify their no's. 2. The cost of kindness. They are taught that kindness, when used, must be leveraged. True kindness is only reserved for those who cannot possibly repay it. Controlled philanthropy for public image. Or those who can repay it with something irreplaceable. Political favors, exclusive information. Kindness to an underperforming relative or a struggling friend
is simply an expense that does not meet the family's ROI threshold and is therefore unacceptable. 3. Divorce as a business tactic. The ultra-rich view high-stakes divorce not as an emotional tragedy, but as a hostile takeover attempt. Children are taught that marriage documents are complex contracts, and the moment the contract is broken, the primary goal is asset preservation, not emotional stability. This requires the immediate, ruthless separation of human feeling from financial strategy, often resulting in legal battles that redefine cruelty. The goal of this rule is to create decision-makers who can look at a problem, be it firing 1,000 workers, liquidating a long-standing asset, or rejecting a plea for help, and see only numbers and strategy, completely devoid of paralyzing emotional interference.
The "don't look nice" strategy. Respect over affection. Machiavelli Redux. If the first two rules focused on defense and objectivity, rule number 3 is about psychological offense. It is the lesson that ensures the rich are not merely obeyed, but feared, a term they prefer to respected. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. The ultra-rich understand this principle intimately, but they refine it. They teach their heirs that you must appear selectively unpredictable, a weapon of psychological leverage. The predictable person is easy to manipulate. The consistently nice person is a known quantity, a soft target whose boundaries can be pushed with minimal risk. But the person whose actions are guided by an internal logic unknown to outsiders, they inspire hesitation. That hesitation is power. The "don't look nice" strategy is not about being openly cruel. It's about strategically maintaining a slight, perpetual edge of discomfort in all interactions. 1. The iron fist in the velvet glove. Kindness is used, but only as a surprise, a strategic deviation from the norm. If you are consistently demanding, the iron fist, an unexpected act of generosity, the velvet glove, has 10 times the impact. It creates confusion, gratitude, and, most importantly, debt. When generosity is rare, it is cherished. When it is common, it is expected, and therefore worthless. 2. The power of absence. Heirs are taught that their time and their very presence is a commodity of extreme scarcity. They learn to be physically or mentally absent from situations that do not directly advance their agenda. Showing up to every minor event or being available for every request devalues their existence. This calculated aloofness ensures that when they do arrive, their attention carries maximum weight. 3. The enforcement of boundaries. The rich do not ask politely for boundaries, they enforce them. If an employee, a partner, or a friend crosses a line, be it overstepping authority or intruding on private time, the response is swift, surgical, and often public. This punitive action serves not to reform the individual, but to send a clear, powerful message to the entire network. The cost of overstepping is expulsion. This ruthless clarity ensures loyalty is based on the fear of consequence, which they know is far more reliable than loyalty based on affection. This calculated hardness is why many highly successful CEOs, like the late Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos in his early days, were notorious for their demanding and often difficult nature. They didn't seek popularity. They sought optimal outcomes and absolute respect. Their unpredictability ensured their teams were sharp, on edge, and perpetually prepared to meet an impossible standard. To truly understand the application of Rules 1, 2, and 3, you must look at the hidden theater of high-stakes divorce and corporate warfare. Consider the case of a fictionalized composite, the sterling divorce, a billion-dollar separation that played out quietly over 5 years. The husband, A, an heir to an industrial fortune, had been subtly coached in the 3 rules. The wife, B, was a genuinely kind, social figure who believed in fairness. When the marriage failed, B hired aggressive counsel, expecting a fair negotiation. But A did not negotiate. He executed. Rule number 1, strategic isolation. Before the divorce was announced, A used his family office to systematically sever B's access to shared resources and contacts. The joint accountant was replaced by a sterling loyal legal team, the 5-person firewall. Friends of the family were approached with highly lucrative consulting opportunities, effectively buying their silence and loyalty. B found her emotional network had evaporated overnight. She was legally and socially isolated, fighting a war with no reconnaissance. Rule number 2, financial empathy is a weakness. B's lawyers argued for a fair distribution of assets based on marital contribution. A's team responded with extreme financial objectivity. They classified B's contribution as a quantifiable marketing expense, social events, public appearances, arguing her value was already compensated through lifestyle. The argument was emotionally void but legally devastating. A viewed his children's college funds, currently held in trusts, as assets to be preserved, fighting tooth and nail to prevent B's access, not out of malice, but pure asset preservation logic. Rule number 3, the virtue of unpredictability. Midway through the negotiation, when B felt she had leverage, A did something unexpected. He liquidated a non-core business asset, a move that seemed counterproductive, and used the cash to fund a highly public, entirely legitimate environmental foundation in his name. This act appeared charitable, but it served 2 ruthless purposes. It immediately reduced the cash pool available for division, and it painted B as the greedy party fighting against a dedicated philanthropist. Control the narrative. The unpredictable generosity stunned B's team and broke their momentum, forcing them to settle for less than half their initial demand. This is the code in action. No emotion, only objective strategy, enforced by selective ruthlessness. Building structures, not bank accounts. The art of generational defense. The most profound realization the ultra-rich pass down is this: a large bank account is a target. A complex structure is a fortress. The common person saves money in accounts. The wealthy build moats, legal, financial, and political barriers designed to make their assets virtually untouchable by external forces, be they taxes, creditors, or angry ex-spouses. Rule 4 is about prioritizing structure over liquidity. 1. The moat strategy: trusts and foundations. The ultra-rich teach their children that money should never be owned outright. It must be held within sophisticated legal instruments like irrevocable trusts, holding companies, and private foundations. These structures legally remove the assets from the individual's name, shielding them from death taxes, lawsuits, and public scrutiny. The heir may control the trust, but they do not technically own the wealth. They are merely stewards, a subtle but vital psychological shift that reduces the heir's personal liability. The tax optimization doctrine. The middle class focuses on tax avoidance, illegal. The rich focus on tax optimization, using every legal loophole, incentive, and political structure to ensure their effective tax rate is near zero.
This is a highly specialized skill, often requiring the full-time employment of specialized legal and accounting teams, whose sole function is generational defense. The wealthy do not pay their fair share, because their education taught them that every dollar paid to the state is a dollar that cannot be used to grow the family's influence and power. The multi-jurisdictional chess game. The assets are never kept in one place. They are spread across multiple countries and legal jurisdictions. Delaware for trusts, Singapore for capital, the Cayman Islands for holding companies. This geographical complexity creates a legal nightmare for anyone attempting to seize the assets, effectively ensuring that the cost of pursuing the wealth is always greater than the reward. Complexity is their ultimate weapon of defense. This rule is a rejection of simple accumulation. It is an embrace of institutional perpetuity. The children are taught they are inheriting a machine, and their primary duty is to maintain and defend its complex internal workings.
The truth is whatever you pay for, mastering public perception. The final and most subtle rule of lasting power is the understanding that reality, for the majority of people, is merely a consensus agreed upon through media and influence. The rich know that to control the world, you must control what the world believes. Rule 5 is about treating public perception not as a byproduct of success, but as an actively managed asset. 1. Philanthropy as a power tool. For the elite, charity is rarely a purely altruistic act. It is a dual-purpose weapon. PR shield. Massive public donations immediately provide a moral and ethical defense against any future investigative journalism or public criticism. It preemptively establishes the family's goodness. Influence vector. Foundations and endowments are used to fund think tanks, university departments, and political action committees, effectively purchasing influence over future policy and research outcomes. The money buys research that supports the family's business interests, and it funds the political careers of favorable candidates. 2. The controlled leak and media buffer. Heirs are taught never to speak to the media without a highly trained communications team present. Information is released on a need-to-know, highly sanitized basis. For crisis management, they maintain a private network of journalists and editors who can be deployed to bury negative stories, amplify positive ones, and generally ensure that the family's narrative, the myth of their own moral superiority and genius, remains intact. The truth is fluid, the narrative is fixed. This mastery of perception is the ultimate firewall. When the legal structures fail, when the allies turn, the narrative ensures that the public, the courts, and the politicians remain on the side of the perceived virtue. Why you must adopt strategic ruthlessness today. We have lifted the veil on the 5 rules that define the mindset of generational power. Rule 1. Strategic isolation. Trust is a liability. Utility is an ally. Rule 2. Financial empathy is a weakness. Assets are numbers. Humans are risk. Rule 3. The virtue of unpredictability. Respect is built on fear, not affection. Rule 4. The legacy calculus. Build structures, not mere bank accounts. Rule 5. Control the narrative. The truth is paid for. Perception is reality. You might feel a certain moral repulsion to these rules. Good. That feeling is the exact difference between you and them. Your conditioning to value emotion over effectiveness is precisely the mechanism that keeps the ultra-rich in power. You don't need $1 billion to apply this code.
You need a shift in mindset. Start today by asking the terrifying question that the ultra-rich ask every morning. What is the function of this relationship, and does its return justify its cost? Start by enforcing your boundaries, your rule number 3, and saying no without explanation or guilt. Stop using your time and energy as a cheap currency. The world is not fair. It is a competition for resources, time, and influence. The people who win are the ones who understand this is a strategic game. The choice is yours. Will you be the sheep, guided by the comforting lies of sentimentality, or will you adopt the code of the shepherd and choose power over popularity? If this video has fundamentally challenged how you view success, hit the like button. Subscribe for more strategic truths that the world tries to hide from you. And share this video with the person who needs to understand the real game of power. Choose strategic ruthlessness. Your future depends on it.